So the topic I chose at the beginning of the semester was gender issues and disasters. With this topic, I've chosen to delve into women specifically and the challenges and disadvantages they face in regards to disasters. I want to begin with the myth that men and women experience disasters similarly and that they face the same challenges. This is false. In fact, women have increased risk in contrast to men. Women are disproportionately affected by disasters for several reasons, including socioeconomic standing and lack of voice in emergency planning. In many communities around the world, women are regarded as homemakers that care for the family, and they lack representation in the overall community. In these communities, women are presumed to have little or no place in emergency management or planning. Because they are unable to participate in planning, and because men typically oversee communications during disasters, women are left in the dark and put at risk in the event of disasters. Many women affected suffer from illiteracy, are often married young, and have no access to education. The first scenario that I'd like to bring to your attention is the earthquake in Nepal. In April of 2015, Nepal experienced a devastating earthquake that affected over 5 million people. Women were heavily affected, as the 13 districts that suffered the most structural damage and loss of life were heavily populated with female-headed households. These women relied on agriculture, which indicates a low socioeconomic standing, and nearly 93,000 women affected were pregnant, with 1.4 million in the childbearing age category. This is important because these statistics showcase that women are a vulnerable population in many cultures because of their limited access to education, which results in limited access and preparedness knowledge. The results can be devastating, as 55% of deaths resulting from the earthquake in Nepal were suffered by women. Because women are neglected in the planning process, their needs are not considered in the event of a disaster. In the aftermath, women face harsh and challenging conditions. What women are most put at risk for, however, is gender-based violence. Defined as any act of gender-based violence that results in, or is likely to result in, physical, sexual, or psychological harm or suffering to women. Gender-based violence exists in many different capacities, but women are targets in larger numbers in the aftermath of disasters. This is because in internally displaced people's camps and refugee camps, women and children are more likely to be unaccompanied due to men migrating separately, which is difficult for women to do because of their domestic responsibilities in overseeing the safety of their children. With lack of security in camps, women are being forced to endure abuse from predators. It has been documented that women may trade their children for marriage in order to alleviate their poverty and lack of resources, or, as situations become increasingly dire, barter with predators using sex as an incentive to receive resources in order to provide for women and their families. Another example of challenges women face during disasters can be seen in Ideal Displacement Camp in Somalia. In 2015, the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees suggests that nearly 50% of displaced peoples are women, and in refugee camps in Somalia, women are facing additional challenges, not unlike challenges in displacement camps across the world. In an article about Ideal, the displacement camp in Somalia, World Vision medical teams discuss their history of aiding women in Somalia and the primary concerns that they have been treating women for. In the article, World Vision specifically mentions that they treat women at a higher rate for things like malnutrition and anemia, specifically in pregnant women, as well as urinary tract infections and sexually transmitted diseases. World Vision medics also allude to the fact that women are reluctant to come forward about their symptoms and struggles due to internalized cultural oppression they have faced. Women contract sexually transmitted diseases at higher rates in camps due to abuse and are unable to use the often outdoor public restrooms in fear of being targeted by predators. Therefore, they avoid using restrooms, resulting in UTIs. Because women are not considered when emergency planning takes place, their hygienic and medical needs are not considered at all. This leads to serious health impairments and issues, many of which are not able to be handled without help of nonprofits or temporary medical teams like the one in Somalia. For the women in Nepal living in poverty with limited access to education as a result of gender norms, access to knowledge on preparation and emergency planning is minimal, which leaves this demographic at a higher rate for impact during a disaster. Internalized cultural norms in general in communities across the world enable gender-based violence, which is why women are forced to endure it in such high volumes, and displacement camps create a vulnerable setting for these attacks to happen. lack of equality between men and women overall result in women being impacted more harshly during and after disasters in most documented cases.